Hello fellow Star Trek fans, welcome back to a brand new episode of 10 Forward, the Star Trek episode summary and recap series brought to you as part of the Clonestar podcast. I am your host Mike Overton, and in this week's episode I am checking out Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 Episode 7. Let's dive in. The USS Cerritos is cleaning up after another chaotic space pothole event, this time involving an Enterprise D from a purple dimension. Whilst the crew missed all of the excitement, battling some evil clones of Tasha Yar or something, they pick up a Starfleet energy reading on the planet Delma 3, a pre-warp planet. Captain Freeman assigns Tendi, Mariner and T'Lyn to retrieve whatever the Purple D left behind, tasking Dr. T'Ana with disguising the group as locals. Unsurprisingly, the grumpy doctor is, well, less than thrilled, muttering, "I'm a doctor, not a cosmetic surgeon." Meanwhile, Tendi learns that T'Lyn is also being considered for the senior science officer role, adding a layer of kind of personalised tension there. Their mission comes with, well, significant complications. Delma 3 has a time differential where 1 second aboard the Cerritos equals about a week on the planet. Boimler and Rutherford confidently assure their friends that they'll be back in just a second. But a spilled cocktail with prawns? Yes, I know, you'll have to watch it. Over the transporter controls leaves the duo scrambling. Meanwhile, the away team lands on the adorable pre-industrial town, attempting to blend in. A suspicious local, Snell, quickly takes an interest into the odd newcomers. Scans lead the team to a crashed shuttle where they destroy the leftover tech to prevent any contamination, until they discover something, well, truly unexpected. A purple Lieutenant Commander Data's severed head. Concealing the android to fend off Snell's suspicions, they claim to be some travelling performers, with T'Lyn impressively juggling to sell the story. Whilst Tendi quietly fumes at her rival's success, they regroup and wait for their beam-up. Time stretches as Boimler and Rutherford continue to frantically clean the transporter console, but weeks on the planet turn to months, forcing the group to adapt. T'Lyn establishes a thriving garden and even builds a windmill. Tendi buries herself in some scientific research, and Mariner, well, let's face it, unsurprisingly, she's bored, and decides that this is her opportunity to embrace probe life, a la Picard. As they settle into the abandoned shack, Tendi secretly activates Purple Data, who immediately recognises her ambition and shares stories of his own efforts to break the barriers in Starfleet. Their conversations inspired Tendi through her rivalry with T'Lyn, but it continues to simmer, especially as T'Lyn's agricultural success leads to the creation of local beauty product, much to Tendi's annoyance. By the 10-month mark, Tendi has gone full mad scientist, building a transporter pad in a lab. However, frustrations boil over when she accuses Data of conspiring with T'Lyn and shuts him down, quite literally. Meanwhile, Snell's lurking finally pays off, and he catches a glimpse of the lab and declares them witches, rallying to the townsfolk into a mob. Realising her behaviour was out of line, Tendi apologises to T'Lyn, who admits in her own efforts they were merely attempting to build camaraderie. The two reconcile, burying their rivalry just as Snell returns with the mob. The group outsmart him by disguising Purple Data's head as one of T'Lyn's giant grapes, narrowly escaping back to the shack. Finally, Boimler and Rutherford get the transporter controls working, and the team have finally been back aboard the Cerritos. Purple Data has one final moment with Captain Freeman, expressing his desire to reunite with his best friend, Purple Geordie. Tendi and T'Lyn are given the shared responsibility for the senior science officer role, much to the delight of the crew. Back in her element, Mariner bids farewell to her prison pals with less than musical flute performance, prompting T'Lyn's iconic deep pan. You don't know how to play that. Classic Lower Decks chaos. Do you know what? I really struggled to find anything I didn't like or something that they could have done better in this week's episode. All in all, it's just a great episode, and I think it's I'm gonna say it's my second favourite episode of the season for sure. But this I think is probably one of my favourite episodes of this season for sure. There were just lots of really good, entertaining parts in an episode that's 26 minutes long. I thought Snell was brilliant. I mean, come on, everybody loves a bit of a weird lurker. So Snell I thought was fantastic, and he's just one of those characters that kind of irks you, but in a good way. I loved the whole Purple Data story plot, the fact that it's that typical kind of prisoner's dilemma, as it were. The two, Tendi and Data, are working together, then Tendi mistrusts Data, and it's just that very typical kind of storyline, but it was done exceptionally well. Lots of hilariously funny jokes within that as well, like Data saying he's fully functional. So yeah, just lots of really good parts. The travelling troupe of entertainers I thought was hilarious, with Tillin juggling. It's like, come on, who would have expected a Vulcan to juggle? Mariner kind of going the probe life a la Picard, with speed dating, and end up getting locked up for horning someone in the eye, and then putting out the eternal flame to ward off bad spirits. I thought it was hilarious. My standout moment this week is food. Bear with me. I thought Tillin's storyline with the giant fruit and veg was hilarious, and the fact that it started off as, I've built a windmill and I'm refining grain, all the way up to here I've got a 25-meter diameter pumpkin, and then the whole thing ends up being this kind of miracle cosmetic as well, which I just thought was brilliant. It was so well done. And then obviously on the food note, you have the whole Boimler Rutherford food story with this weird cocktail with shrimp, prawns, whatever you want to call them, the fact that they spill it all over the console, and then they're using the uniform to wipe it off, and that doesn't work, so they're licking the console, electrocuting themselves. It was just hilarious. So yes, my standout moment this week is the food side of the episode. This week's episode, well, it just was an absolute blast. The classic Trek setup of an undercover mission to a pre-warp civilization provided the perfect playground for Lower Decks trademark commentary, and well, they made the most of it. From hilariously nosy Snell, arguably the standout character for this week, and the time dilation shenanigans, and the major legacy guest star driving a key character arc, it all had the ingredients of a memorable outing. As the season nears the end, the episode leaned heavily into the nostalgic callbacks, maybe a few too many, with meta jokes such as fully functional, Edo level bullshit, and of course Carbon Creek situation peppered throughout. These were balanced by broad cheeky humour featuring lines about giant melons, carpet matching, the hole, and of course the Purple D. Whether or not that lands likely depends on your sense of humour, but the inner teenager in me found it quite hysterical. Beneath the laughs, the episode delivered a layered character story as Tendi wrestled with envy and jealousy towards Tillin, who remained, well, oblivious to the rivalry. The time-dilated planet created the perfect pressure cooker for Tendi's descent into mad scientist territory, and with her hoiled up in a lab alongside Purple Data. Brent Spiner was a treat, bringing back the TNG era Data with a blend of innocence, sharp observations, and, well, deep pan charm. The writing nailed the tone of the era, allowing heartfelt moments such as nods to Data's friendship with Geordi, without overplaying it. His presence, although highlighted the girls' trip, inadvertently split the trio apart, contrasting with earlier episodes like Something Borrowed, Something Green, where they bonded as a team. The episode's exploration of how promotions and life changes can cause friends to drift apart felt, well, very grounded and relatable. Whilst Mariner's subplot leaned into the silliness and cliches, it still delivered some solid laughs, which ultimately, that's what counts. The Boimler Rutherford sideplot, which was brief and forgettable, though their mishap cleaning up Sticky Console was good for a chuckle. Rutherford's recent tendency to follow Boimler's shortcuts, guided by dubious cheat codes, might hint at future consequences for staying from the authentic selves. For now, it's just another moment of meta-humour about Elkar's issues, which fans of Star Trek tech quirks will appreciate. The long season arcs of fissures resurface, though their actual origins remains unresolved. No one seems particularly alarmed despite the multiple incidents this week alone. Instead of these fissures are more of a narrative device to push character growth, something this season is definitely prioritising. They also offer opportunities for delightful moments, such as Brent Spiner's purple data, which no one is complaining about. Ultimately, this was another episode made for fans. By this point, if you're still watching 5 seasons in, you likely love Star Trek as much as Mike McCann and his team do. The writers are playing the hits, layering in callbacks and familiar themes, but the heart of the show remains the main cast. Even with high-profile guest stars, the episode still played focus on Tendi and T'Lyn and the dynamics within the Cerritos crew. It's bittersweet knowing that we've only got 3 episodes left to spend with them. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of 10 Forward. I have been your host, Mike Overton. Remember, you can join our Patreon from as little as £2, €2 or $2 a month using the link either in the podcast or video description below. But until next week, live long and prosper.